What happens when a woman escaping abuse runs straight into the arms of Seoul's most dangerous man? You're about to find out. But first, smash that like button, tell us where you are watching from and subscribe because this story is going to take you on an emotional roller coaster you won't forget. Let's get started. The bullet grazed Amoka's shoulder before she even heard the gunshot. One moment she was walking beside June through the dim parking garage, her heels clicking against concrete, and the next, she was on the ground, his body covering hers as chaos erupted around them. "Stay down," he shouted, his voice sharp and commanding. She could feel his heart hammering against her back, smell his expensive cologne mixed with something sharper. Fear, maybe, or adrenaline. Glass shattered somewhere behind them. More gunshots. Screams echoed off the concrete walls. June's security team returned fire, and through it all, Amoka couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only feel the weight of him protecting her, shielding her from bullets meant for him. When the shooting finally stopped, he pulled back just enough to look at her face. "Are you hurt?" His hands moved over her arms, her sides, checking for wounds with an urgency that surprised her. "I'm fine," she gasped, but then she saw the blood on her dress, felt the burning pain in her shoulder. "You're bleeding." His jaw tightened, and something dangerous flashed in his eyes. "Get the car. Now," he barked at his men, then scooped Amoka into his arms like she weighed nothing. She wanted to protest, to tell him she could walk, but the world was spinning and her shoulder felt like it was on fire. "Who were they?" she whispered against his chest. "People who made a mistake," he said coldly. "A fatal one." And that was how Amoka's carefully constructed prison began to crack open, revealing something far more complicated than she'd bargained for. Before we dive deeper into this story, if you're loving the drama already, hit that subscribe button and drop a like. Trust me, you'll want to see where this goes. Now, let's rewind to how we got here. 3 days earlier, Amoka had been running through the rain-soaked streets of Itaewon with nothing but her passport and the clothes on her back. Her face was swollen, her lips split, and every step away from Daniel's apartment felt like stealing back a piece of her soul. She'd been in Seoul for 2 years. 2 years of slowly watching her dreams curdle into nightmares. Daniel had seemed so kind when they first met online, a Korean Nigerian businessman who promised to help her build a life in South Korea. He'd paid for her flight, set up her apartment, introduced her to his friends. And then, slowly, like a frog in boiling water, everything changed. First, he wanted her to check in with him every hour. Then he didn't like her friends. Then he needed to see her phone. Then came the first slap, followed by tears and apologies and promises. The second time, there were no apologies. By the 100th time, there were only threats. "You have nowhere to go," he told her that final night, his fist connecting with her ribs. "No money, no friends, no visa without me. You're mine, Amoka. Forever mine." But he'd gotten drunk after beating her, drunk enough to pass out on the couch, and Amoka had made a choice. Freedom or death. There was no third option anymore. She ran until her house slippers fell apart, until the rain plastered her hair to her face, until she couldn't remember which direction she'd come from. Gongnom's glittering lights blurred through her tears, all those wealthy people in their expensive cars, living lives she'd once dreamed about. She wasn't watching where she was going when she slammed into someone outside a sleek black building, bouncing off a solid chest and nearly falling. Strong hands caught her arms, steadying her. "Watch where you're," the man's voice cut off abruptly. Amoka looked up into the most intense eyes she'd ever seen. He was tall, dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit, with sharp features and an expression that could freeze hell itself. But it was his eyes that caught her, dark and calculating, missing nothing. She watched those eyes take in her split lip, her bruised cheekbone, her soaked and torn clothes, the terror she couldn't hide. "Please," she heard herself whisper, not even sure what she was begging for. "I need help. He'll kill me if he finds me." The man, June, she'd learn later, didn't respond immediately. His associate, a shorter man with glasses, stepped forward. "Sir, we should go." "The meeting. Cancel it," June said quietly, still looking at Amoka. "Sir." I said cancel it. Get the car. He turned to Amoka. Can you walk? She nodded, though her legs were shaking. Then walk. Fast. He guided her toward the black SUV that pulled up seconds later, his hand firm on her elbow. Amoka should have been afraid, getting into a stranger's car in a foreign country, but she was already drowning. What was one more risk? The interior was all leather and tinted windows. June sat across from her, studying her with that unnerving intensity. What's your name? Amoka. Full name. Amoka Okafor. Nigerian. Yes. And the man who did this to you? Amoka's hands twisted in her lap. My boyfriend. Ex-boyfriend. I don't know. Daniel Park. He's Korean Nigerian. I thought he loved me, but... Her voice cracked. But love doesn't feel like this, does it? June's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Understanding, maybe. No. It doesn't. The car pulled up to a building so tall Amoka couldn't see the top through the rain. June's penthouse was on the 40th floor, all floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist furniture that probably cost more than everything Amoka had ever owned. A woman in a crisp suit appeared almost immediately. Ms. Park, get her cleaned up. Medical kit. Fresh clothes. June turned to Amoka. You'll stay here tonight. Tomorrow we talk. Then he walked away, leaving Amoka standing there dripping on his marble floors, wondering what kind of man she'd just trusted with her life. Ms. Park didn't ask questions. She led Amoka to a bathroom that looked like something from a luxury hotel, all white marble and gold fixtures, and handed her a first aid kit without a word. Shower. There are clothes in the closet. Mr. June will see you in an hour. Then she left, and Amoka was alone with her reflection for the first time since escaping. She barely recognized herself. Her right eye was swollen nearly shut, her bottom lip split and crusted with dried blood, bruises blooming purple across her cheekbone. She looked exactly like what she was, a woman who'd been broken piece by piece. The shower was scalding hot, and she stood under it until the water ran cold, scrubbing away Daniel's touch, his violence, his ownership. When she finally emerged, she found clothes laid out on the bed, simple but expensive, everything in her size somehow. She dressed in black pants and a soft cream sweater, then examined her face again. The bruises couldn't be hidden, but at least she was clean. At least she was here and not there. June was waiting in his study, a room lined with books she suspected he'd actually read. He'd changed into casual clothes, black slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. It should have made him look less intimidating. It didn't. Sit, he said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. She sat. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, sliding one across to her. I don't drink, she said quietly. Tonight you do. His tone left no room for argument. Amoka took the glass, took a sip, felt it burn all the way down. Better? He asked. No, the corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Honest. I like that. He leaned back in his chair, studying her again with those calculating eyes. Here's your situation, Amoka Okafor. You have no money, no friends you can trust, and a violent ex-boyfriend who will absolutely come looking for you. Your visa is dependent on him, which means you're in this country illegally as of tonight. You have 3 options. 1. I put you on a plane back to Nigeria tomorrow. 2. I give you some cash and you disappear into Seoul's underground, probably end up trafficked or dead within a month. 3. He paused, taking a slow sip of his whiskey. 3. You work for me. Work for you how? Amoka's voice was steadier than she felt. I need a wife. She blinked. Excuse me. Not a real wife. A contractual one. 6 months. You play the role perfectly, attend events, meet my business partners, smile pretty, don't embarrass me, and at the end, I'll give you enough money to start over anywhere in the world. New identity if you need it. Plus, you'll be under my protection. Your ex-boyfriend won't dare touch you. Amoka's head was spinning. Why would you need a fake wife? Because I'm 32, successful, and single. In Korean business culture, especially with the traditional partners I need to court, that makes people nervous. They don't trust unmarried men my age. They think we're unstable, uncommitted. A wife signals stability, family values, trustworthiness. So hire an actress. I need someone with nothing to lose. Someone who won't get emotionally attached or expect more than the contract offers. Someone desperate enough to commit fully to the role. His eyes bored into hers. Someone like you. The words should have stung, but they were true. Amoka had nothing. She was nothing, at least in this moment. And if I say no? Then I'll give you option 1 or 2. Your choice. Amoka looked down at her hands, at the faint bruises around her wrists where Daniel had grabbed her. 6 months of playing pretend versus a lifetime of running. 6 months of protection versus constantly looking over her shoulder. What exactly would this contract entail? June pulled out a folder, sliding it across the desk. Everything's in there. You'll live here, in a separate bedroom. You'll attend all social functions with me. You'll learn enough Korean to get by in conversation, enough about my business to seem informed, enough about etiquette to not embarrass yourself or me. Ms. Park will train you. You'll dress appropriately, speak appropriately, act appropriately. In public, you'll be the perfect, devoted wife. In private, we maintain professional boundaries. Meaning separate bedrooms. Separate lives. This is business, not romance. Amoka picked up the contract, scanning through pages of legal language. The terms were clear, almost cold in their precision. 6 months. $1 million at the end, plus relocation expenses. Monthly stipend for personal expenses. Healthcare covered. Termination clauses that heavily favored him. But also, and this caught her eye, protection guarantees. If anyone threatened her, including Daniel, June's security team would handle it. If she needed to leave the country quickly, arrangements would be made. If she violated the contract's confidentiality clauses, she'd owe him double the payout and face legal consequences. This says I can't tell anyone the marriage isn't real, she said. Not anyone. Not ever. Even after the 6 months. Correct. Why? Because I have enemies, Amoka. People who would use any weakness against me. If they knew my marriage was fake, they'd use it to destroy business deals, ruin my reputation, possibly worse. You keep this secret, or you pay the price. There was no warmth in his voice, no kindness. This was the real June, cold, calculating, dangerous. And yet, he'd pulled her out of the rain. He'd given her options. More options than she'd had 3 hours ago. I have conditions, Amoka said, surprising herself. June raised an eyebrow. Go on. I want my own bank account. Money I can access without asking permission. Agreed. Next. I want to continue my education. Online courses, whatever. I was studying international business before, she stopped, not wanting to finish that sentence. Before Daniel made her quit. Agreed. Next. I want the right to leave if you're abusive. Contract void, and I still get half the payout. For the first time, something like respect flickered across June's face. Agreed. But understand this, I don't hit women. I don't need to. There are far more effective ways to get what I want. Somehow, that was more terrifying than a threat of violence. Anything else? Amoka thought about Daniel, about the years she'd wasted, about how small she'd become under his control. I want combat training. Self-defense. Whatever your security team knows. June's lips curved into a genuine smile. Now that, I didn't expect. Why? Because I never want to feel powerless again. Because next time someone tries to break me, I want to break them first. Do you think Amoka is making the right choice? Tell us in the comment box. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more hooking stories. Let's get into what happens next. June studied her for a long moment, then extended his hand across the desk. Deal. Sign the contract, and tomorrow your training begins. Amoka took the pen he offered, her hand hovering over the signature line. This was insane. She was signing her life away to a stranger, a man who radiated danger from every pore, a man whose business dealings she knew nothing about. But when she thought about the alternative, running forever, hiding forever, being Daniel's victim forever, the pen touched paper. Her signature looked small and shaky next to his bold, confident scroll. Welcome to your new life, Mrs. June, he said, and Amoka wondered if she'd just escaped one prison only to enter another. The next morning, Ms. Park woke her at 6. Your schedule, she said crisply, handing Amoka a tablet. Korean language lessons from 7 to 9. Etiquette training from 9 to 11. Lunch. Fashion consultation from 1 to 3. Business briefing from 3 to 5. Dinner with Mr. June at 7. Combat training begins next week once your bruises heal. Amoka's head spun looking at the packed schedule. Every day until you're ready. Mr. June doesn't accept failure, and neither do I. Shower, dress, breakfast in 20 minutes. The door closed with a decisive click. Amoka flopped back on the bed, a bed so soft it felt like sleeping on clouds, and stared at the ceiling. What had she done? The first week was brutal. Her Korean teacher, Mr. Kim, was patient but relentless, drilling her on pronunciation until her tongue ached. The etiquette instructor, an elderly woman named Mrs. Song, made her practice bowing, walking, sitting, and eating until everything felt unnatural and forced. You walk like a student, Mrs. Song said disapprovingly. You must walk like a queen. Shoulders back, chin up, eyes forward. You are Mrs. June now. Act like it. The fashion consultant stripped her closet and rebuilt it with clothes Amoka had only seen in magazines. Chanel, Dior, Gucci. Your body is beautiful, the woman said matter-of-factly, but you hide it. No more. We dress to impress, to command attention, to show power. Every evening, Amoka had dinner with June in his formal dining room, just the two of them at opposite ends of a table that could seat 12. He'd ask about her day, quiz her on what she'd learned, correct her posture or her pronunciation with clinical detachment. You're improving, he said on the 5th night. Coming from him, it felt like high praise. I'm exhausted, Amoka admitted. Good. Exhaustion means you're working hard enough. Is this what your real wife would have to endure? The words slipped out before she could stop them. June set down his fork, his eyes sharp. I don't plan on having a real wife. Too complicated. Too vulnerable. Vulnerable. Caring about someone gives them power over you. I don't give anyone power over me. His tone was final, a door slamming shut. But Amoka saw cracks in that door. Like the way June's hand lingered on her elbow when guiding her through the penthouse. The way his jaw tightened when she winced from her fading bruises. The way he personally checked her room's security system every night, something Ms. Park said he'd never done for anyone before. On the 10th day, Daniel found her. Amoka was leaving a boutique in Gangnam, bags in hand, when she heard his voice. Amoka. Baby, I've been looking everywhere for you. She froze. Turned. There he was, looking sober and desperate, his eyes wild. I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. I was drunk. I wasn't thinking. Please come home. I love you. I'll never hurt you again, I swear. June's security guard stepped between them immediately, but Amoka felt her hands shaking, her breath shortening. Daniel tried to push past the guard. Get away from her. Amoka, who are these people? What's going on? Then June appeared, seemingly from nowhere, his presence like a cold wind. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. You have 3 seconds to walk away before I make you disappear. Daniel laughed, a brittle, manic sound. Who the hell are you? I'm her husband. The word hung in the air like a blade. Daniel's face went white, then red. Husband. We were supposed to get married. She's mine. She was never yours, June said quietly, and something in his tone made even Amoka shiver. She's mine now. And if you come near her again, if you so much as think about her, I'll know. And you'll regret it for whatever brief time you have left. Daniel started to say something else, but June's guard moved forward, and suddenly Daniel was being escorted away, still shouting threats that echoed down the street. Amoka couldn't stop shaking. June's hand touched her shoulder, gentle despite his earlier menace. Are you all right? No. Yes. I don't know. She looked up at him. You called yourself my husband. I am. On paper, soon enough. We expedited the marriage registration this morning. It's official as of 2 hours ago. You didn't tell me. I'm telling you now. His thumb brushed her shoulder, the gesture oddly intimate. He can't touch you anymore, Amoka. Legally, socially, or physically. You're under my protection. Why does it feel like I'm under your ownership instead? The words came out sharper than she intended. June's hand dropped. Because you don't know the difference yet. But you will. He turned to leave, then paused. Your combat training starts tomorrow. 6 a.m. Don't be late. The combat trainer, a compact woman named Jean who moved like water, nearly killed Amoka that first session. You're angry, Jean observed after Amoka threw a particularly wild punch. Good. Use it. But control it. I don't want to control it, Amoka gasped, sweat pouring down her face. I want to hurt someone. Then hurt me. Really try. Jin's stance shifted, inviting attack. Amoka launched herself forward, all her rage and fear and humiliation poured into her fists, and Jin effortlessly redirected every blow, finally sweeping Amoka's legs out from under her. Amoka hit the mat hard, the breath knocked from her lungs. Anger without discipline is just flailing, Jin said, extending a hand to pull her up. You want power? Real power? Then learn control first. Learn to see 3 moves ahead. Learn to wait for the perfect moment, then strike without hesitation. Over the following weeks, Amoka learned. Her body hardened, her reflexes sharpened. She learned where to hit to disable, where to strike to kill. She learned to read body language, to anticipate attacks, to turn her opponent's strength against them. And slowly, something changed inside her. She stopped flinching when men approached. Stopped apologizing for taking up space. Started meeting June's intense gaze without looking away first. One night, 3 weeks into her training, June found her in the gym at midnight, beating the heavy bag like it owed her money. Can't sleep? He asked from the doorway. Thinking, she said between punches. About how different I feel now. Stronger. Like I could actually fight back if Daniel came after me again. He won't. I made sure of that. Something in his tone made her stop, turn. What did you do? Nothing he didn't deserve. Let's just say he's decided to return to Nigeria. Permanently. June moved closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne. You're different. More confident. It suits you. Your investment is paying off, she said, trying to sound casual. Is that what you think you are? An investment. His eyes searched hers. What else would I be? The question hung between them, heavy with implications neither seemed ready to voice. June reached out, his fingers barely brushing her cheek where the last of her bruises was fading. You're more than that. I just don't know what yet. Amoka's heart hammered in her chest, and it had nothing to do with her workout. June's fingers lingered on her cheek, his touch feather-light but burning. She should step back. Should remind him about professional boundaries and separate bedrooms and the contract they'd both signed. But she didn't move. Neither did he. June, she started, but the word came out barely a whisper. You've been avoiding me, he said softly, his hand dropping but his eyes never leaving hers. Outside of our scheduled dinners, you disappear. Why? Because this is getting complicated. It was always going to be complicated. He moved closer, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. You think I don't notice? The way you look at me when you think I'm not watching? The way your breath catches when I touch you? Amoka's face flushed hot. That's not. We agreed this was business. We agreed a lot of things. Doesn't mean I expected. He stopped, jaw clenching as if the words physically hurt to say. I didn't expect you. The gym fell silent except for their breathing. Amoka knew she should walk away, should go back to her room, should maintain the walls she'd so carefully built. But she was tired of walls. Tired of protecting herself from everything, including this. What do you want from me? She asked, her voice stronger now. The truth. I don't know anymore. June ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. I wanted an arrangement. Something clean, simple, controllable. But you're not simple, Amoka. You're fierce and broken and healing and brave, and every day you're here, you take up more space in my head. Is that a problem? Yes. Because I don't do this. I don't feel things for people. It's dangerous. It's weak. And I've built my entire life on being neither of those things. Amoka stepped closer, closing the distance between them until she could have counted his eyelashes. Maybe being strong means letting yourself be weak sometimes. With the right person. His eyes darkened. And you think you're the right person? I think we're both too damaged to be the right person for anyone. But maybe that's exactly why this could work. She placed her hand on his chest, felt his heart racing as fast as hers. I'm terrified of you, June. Not because I think you'll hurt me like Daniel did. But because I think you could hurt me worse. You could make me care. You could make me hope. And when this contract ends... Stop, he said roughly, his hand covering hers on his chest. Stop thinking about the end. Stop planning your escape before you've even let yourself be here. Then tell me what this is. Tell me what you want. June's other hand came up to cup her face, his thumb tracing her bottom lip with devastating gentleness. I want to kiss you. I've wanted to kiss you since the night you signed that contract with ink-stained fingers and terror in your eyes. I've wanted to kiss you every morning when you walk into Korean lessons with your hair still wet from the shower. I've wanted to kiss you every time you land a perfect punch in training and look so proud of yourself. Amoka's breath hitched. Then why haven't you? Because once I start, I won't want to stop. And you deserve someone who can promise you forever, not just 6 months. What if I don't want forever? What if I just want right now? The words were bold, braver than she felt, but true. She'd spent too long living in fear, planning for disasters, protecting herself from hurt. Maybe it was time to choose something just because she wanted it. Consequences be damned. June's control visibly cracked. Amoka, kiss me, she whispered. Please. Just kiss me. He did. His mouth crashed against hers with barely restrained hunger, and it was nothing like the tentative, apologetic kisses Daniel used to give her after his rages. This was consuming, desperate, real. June kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning, his hands tangling in her hair, pulling her closer until there was no space between their bodies. Amoka kissed him back with equal fervor, pouring everything she couldn't say into it, all her fear and hope and desperate, terrifying need. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, June pressed his forehead against hers. This changes everything, he murmured. I know. The contract. I don't care about the contract right now. Amoka's hands fisted in his shirt. For once in my life, I'm choosing what I want instead of what's safe. I'm choosing you. Even if it's stupid. Even if it ends badly. Even if... He kissed her again, softer this time, tender in a way that made her chest ache. It won't end badly. I won't let it. You can't promise that. Watch me. There was steel in his voice, that same cold certainty he used when discussing business. But this wasn't business anymore. This was something far more dangerous. They stood there in the gym, wrapped around each other, until Ms. Park's voice crackled through the intercom. Mr. June, your 7 a.m. meeting has been moved up to 6:30. You have 40 minutes. Reality crashed back in. June pulled away reluctantly, his hand trailing down Amoka's arm before letting go completely. I have to. I know. Go. She tried to smile. Your business empire won't run itself. Tonight, he said firmly. We talk. Really talk. About what this means, what we want, where we go from here. Okay. He started to leave, then turned back. Amoka. I don't regret that. Any of it. Just so you know. After he left, Amoka sank onto the gym bench, touching her lips, still feeling the ghost of his kiss. What had she done? What had they done? The contract said professional boundaries. Separate lives. No emotional attachment. They just shattered every single rule in one impulsive, perfect moment. The day passed in a blur. Amoka couldn't focus on her Korean lesson, stumbling over words she'd mastered weeks ago. Mr. Kim looked concerned. Are you feeling well, Mrs. June? Mrs. June. The name sent a shiver through her. She was Mrs. June now, legally and on paper. But after this morning, she wanted to be Mrs. June in truth. She wanted his ring to mean something. Wanted their marriage to be real. When had that happened? When had this arrangement become something she wanted to keep? I'm fine, she lied. Just tired. But she wasn't tired. She was terrified and exhilarated and more alive than she'd felt in years. That evening, Amoka spent 2 hours getting ready for dinner, changing outfits 3 times before settling on a simple black dress that hugged her newly toned body. She'd gained muscle from the training, lost the frightened slouch she'd carried from Daniel's apartment. When she looked in the mirror now, she saw someone strong. Someone who could fight back. Someone worthy of a man like June. Dinner was already set when she arrived, not in the formal dining room, but on the penthouse terrace under strings of lights. June stood by the railing, his back to her, his shoulders tense. You did this? Amoka asked softly. He turned, and his expression when he saw her made her feel like the most beautiful woman in the world. I wanted somewhere private. Somewhere we could talk without Ms. Park's efficient interruptions. She does have impeccable timing. Amoka moved to stand beside him, looking out over Seoul's glittering skyline. It's beautiful up here. I never come out here. I know. I see you in your room sometimes, staring at the walls like they're closing in. He glanced at her. You can go anywhere in this penthouse, Amoka. It's your home now. For 6 months. Stop saying that. His voice was sharp. Stop counting down to when you leave. What else should I do? Pretend this is permanent. Pretend that when the contract ends, we'll just, what? Keep playing house. June grabbed her hand, pulling her around to face him. What if it wasn't playing? What if I'm asking you to consider making this real? Amoka's heart stopped. What are you saying? I'm saying I want to renegotiate our contract. I'm saying that somewhere between watching you learn to throw a punch and listening to you butcher Korean pronunciation, I started falling for you. And I don't fall, Amoka. I don't let people in. But you're already in, and I don't want you to leave. Tears burned her eyes. June, we barely know each other. I know you take your coffee with too much sugar and not enough cream. I know you have nightmares about Daniel 3 times a week, and you think I don't hear you crying. I know you're terrified of being controlled again, so you overcompensate by challenging everything I say. I know you want to open a business someday, something that helps other women like you. I know you sing in the shower when you think no one's listening, and you're terrible at it, but it's the most beautiful sound I've ever heard. He cupped her face with both hands. I know you're brave and scared and healing and perfect. And I know I want more than 6 months. I want years. Decades. I want forever. Amoka couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't process what June had just said. Forever. He wanted forever. Say something, June whispered, his thumbs stroking her cheeks. Tell me I haven't completely misread this. Tell me you feel even a fraction of what I feel. I'm scared, she admitted, her voice breaking. I'm so scared of believing this is real and waking up to find it was just another dream. Every good thing in my life has turned into a nightmare. What if we're not, he said firmly. This is real, Amoka. What I feel for you is real. Give us a chance. A real chance. Not as a contract or an arrangement. As two people who are falling in love. Falling in love, she repeated, testing the words. Are we? Is that what this is? You tell me. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, the tip of her nose. You tell me what you feel when I walk into a room. What you feel when I look at you. What you felt this morning when I kissed you like my life depended on it. I felt alive, she whispered. I felt wanted. I felt like maybe, just maybe, I could trust someone again. Trust you. Then trust me now. Let me take you on a real date. Let me court you properly, not as your employer or contract holder, but as a man who wants to win your heart. The next 3 weeks were the happiest of Amoka's life. June transformed from the cold, calculating businessman into someone entirely different when they were alone. He took her to a private beach in Busan where they walked barefoot in the sand, and he taught her Korean curse words that made her laugh until she cried. He arranged a cooking class where they learned to make kimchi, and he got paste all over his expensive watch and didn't even care. He took her to a noribang, a private karaoke room, where she finally let him hear her sing, and he didn't laugh. Just pulled her close and said her voice was perfect because it was hers. They had picnics in Namsan Tower at sunset where June fed her strawberries and told her stories about growing up poor in Seoul, about building his empire from nothing, about the loneliness of being powerful with no one to share it with. I never wanted to need anyone, he confessed one evening, his head in her lap as she ran her fingers through his hair. Needing people makes you vulnerable, makes you weak. Or maybe it makes you human, Amoka said softly. Maybe strength isn't about never needing anyone. Maybe it's about choosing who to need and trusting them not to break you. He sat up, taking her face in his hands. Then I choose you. And I'm trusting you not to break me. I won't, she promised, and sealed it with a kiss that tasted like strawberries and hope. But it wasn't all perfect. Amoka still had nightmares about Daniel. Still flinched sometimes when June moved too quickly. Still had moments where the weight of her trauma pressed down so hard she could barely breathe. June learned to recognize those moments. He'd give her space when she needed it, hold her when she'd let him, and never once made her feel weak for struggling. Healing isn't linear, he told her one night after she'd woken screaming from a nightmare. He'd held her until the shaking stopped, then made her tea and sat with her until dawn. You're allowed to have bad days. You're allowed to still be afraid. It doesn't make you broken. Sometimes I feel broken, she admitted. Sometimes I feel like Daniel took something from me I'll never get back. He took your innocence, your ability to trust easily. But he didn't take your strength, Amoka. That was always yours. And every day you choose to keep fighting, keep healing, keep living. That's the bravest thing I've ever seen. Their first real fight happened 4 weeks into their courtship. June had a business dinner with traditional partners, the kind where wives were expected to be seen and not heard, ornamental and obedient. I need you to be careful tonight, he warned her while they dressed. These men are old-fashioned, conservative. They expect wives to be submissive. So you want me to pretend to be someone I'm not? Amoka's voice was sharp. I want you to play the role we agreed on. Sweet, supportive, quiet. I didn't escape one man controlling me just to let another tell me when to speak. June's jaw tightened. This isn't about control. This is about $100 million deal that could fall apart if you offend these men's delicate sensibilities. So I should smile and nod while they talk about women like we're property? While they make jokes about their wives like we're children who need managing? For one night, yes. Is that so much to ask? Yes. Amoka's voice rose. It is. Because every time I smile through that kind of disrespect, I'm telling myself I'm worth less. And I'm done doing that. I'm done making myself smaller so men can feel bigger. June took a deep breath, visibly fighting for control. Amoka, please. I'm not asking you to be less than you are. I'm asking you to help me close this deal. After tonight, you never have to see these men again. And what about the next deal? And the one after that? Will I spend our whole marriage pretending to be someone I'm not just to make your business partners comfortable? Our marriage. June seized on the words. You said our marriage. Like it's real. Like it's permanent. Amoka froze, realizing what she'd said. You meant it, he said, his anger melting into something softer. You're thinking of this as permanent too. I don't know what I'm thinking, she said helplessly. I just know I can't be that woman tonight. I can't smile through misogyny and pretend it doesn't hurt. Not even for you. Especially not for you. June stared at her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Okay. Then don't. Be exactly who you are. Say exactly what you think. And if these old men can't handle a strong, brilliant woman, then I don't need their money. You'd really walk away from $100 million deal? For you. Yes. He pulled her close, kissing her temple. You're worth more than any business deal. I just needed to be reminded of that. The dinner actually went better than expected. When one of the partners made a condescending comment about women not understanding business, Amoka politely but firmly corrected him with statistics about women-led companies outperforming male-led ones. June had smiled, pride evident in his eyes, and backed her up. They lost the deal. But on the drive home, June took her hand and said, "That was the sexiest thing I've ever seen. You demolished that old fool with pure facts and grace. You're not angry. I'm impressed. And maybe a little aroused." He grinned at her shocked expression. What? Watching my brilliant wife intellectually destroy someone who deserved it was extremely attractive. Your wife, Amoka repeated softly. I like when you call me that. Good. Because I plan to keep calling you that for the next 50 years. He meant it. She could see it in his eyes, feel it in the way he held her hand like he'd never let go. But happiness, Amoka had learned, was always temporary. 2 days later, she was shopping in Myeongdong with Ms. Park, enjoying a rare afternoon of normalcy, when she saw him. Daniel. He looked worse than she remembered, thinner, wild-eyed, desperate. And he was staring right at her. Ms. Park, Amoka said quietly, her training kicking in. We need to leave. Now. But it was too late. Daniel was pushing through the crowd toward them, and Amoka could see something in his hand. Something that glinted silver. A knife. You ruined my life. Daniel screamed, and people started backing away, sensing danger. I lost everything because of you. My business, my reputation, my family. They sent me back to Nigeria in disgrace, and it's all your fault. Ms. Park stepped in front of Amoka, already on her phone calling security. But Daniel was fast, faster than he should have been, probably high on something that made him reckless and dangerous. I loved you, he screamed, lunging forward. I gave you everything, and you threw it away for some rich bastard who'll get tired of you just like I did. The knife slashed toward Amoka. She moved on instinct, all those hours of training with Jean taking over. She blocked his arm, twisted, drove her knee into his stomach. Daniel doubled over but didn't drop the knife. He came at her again, and this time she was ready. She caught his wrist, used his momentum against him, and flipped him hard onto the pavement. The knife skittered away. Security arrived within seconds, 3 of June's men materializing from nowhere to pin Daniel down. He was still screaming, still thrashing, but Amoka barely heard him. Her ears were ringing, her hands shaking, her body flooded with adrenaline. Ms. Park's hands were on her shoulders. Are you hurt? Amoka, look at me. Are you hurt? I'm fine, Amoka heard herself say. I'm okay. I defended myself. I actually defended myself. She started laughing, a slightly hysterical sound, because for the first time since Daniel had started hitting her, she'd fought back. She'd won. She wasn't a victim anymore. June arrived minutes later, his face pale, his eyes wild with fear. He pulled Amoka into his arms so tightly she could barely breathe, and she felt him trembling. I thought I'd lost you, he whispered into her hair. When Ms. Park called when she said he had a knife, I thought, I'm okay, she said again, wrapping her arms around him. I'm safe. You taught me how to be safe. He pulled back just enough to look at her face, checking for injuries, his hands running over her arms, her shoulders, making sure she was really whole. He could have killed you. But he didn't, Amoka said firmly, cupping June's face. He didn't because I'm not that scared girl anymore. I'm not his victim. I'm a fighter. You helped me become a fighter. June kissed her then, right there in the middle of Myeongdong with crowds watching and security holding Daniel and cameras flashing. He kissed her like she was his entire world, like he'd die if he let her go. When they finally broke apart, he turned to his security team. Take him to the police. Assault with a deadly weapon, stalking, attempted murder. Make sure every charge sticks. And make sure he never gets out. June, Amoka started, but he silenced her with a look. No mercy. Not for him. Not after what he tried to do to you. Daniel was dragged away, still screaming threats, but they meant nothing now. He was nothing now. Just a bad memory that was finally, truly over. That night, Amoka couldn't sleep. She kept seeing the knife, kept feeling the adrenaline spike, kept replaying the moment she'd fought back and won. Around midnight, she gave up and went to find June. He was in his study, staring at security footage of the attack, his face carved from stone. You're going to drive yourself crazy watching that, she said softly from the doorway. I'm watching how close he got to you. How many seconds it took for my security to arrive. All the ways this could have gone wrong. He looked up at her, and his eyes were haunted. I can't lose you, Amoka. I won't survive it. You're not going to lose me. She crossed to him, settling into his lap, wrapping her arms around his neck. I'm right here. I'm safe. We're safe. Are we? His hands gripped her waist almost painfully. There are people who want to hurt me, Amoka. People who would use you to get to me. Daniel was just the first. What about the next threat? What about? She kissed him to stop the spiral of fear. Kissed him until he relaxed, until his grip gentled, until he was kissing her back with desperate need. Take me to bed, she whispered against his lips. Not to sleep. Take me to bed and remind us both that we're alive. That we're here. That we're together. June searched her eyes. Are you sure? After today, after everything. I'm sure. I've never been more sure of anything. He carried her to his bedroom, the one she'd never entered, and laid her down on sheets that smelled like him. They made love slowly, tenderly, with a desperation born from nearly losing each other. June worshipped every inch of her skin, whispered promises against her throat, told her he loved her over and over until the words became a prayer. Afterward, they lay tangled together, hearts still racing, hands intertwined. Marry me, June said suddenly. Really marry me. Not a contract, not an arrangement. Marry me because you love me and want to spend your life with me. Amoka propped herself up on one elbow, studying his face. We're already married. Legally. But I want the ceremony. The vows that mean something. The wedding where we choose each other in front of everyone who matters. I want you to wear a dress you picked because you love it, not because it serves a purpose. I want to see you walk down an aisle knowing you're choosing me, not because you had no other option, but because I'm what you want. Tears slipped down Amoka's cheeks. You're what I want. You're everything I want. Is that a yes? That's a yes. To a real wedding, a real marriage, a real life together. Yes to all of it. The next 6 weeks were a whirlwind. They planned a small wedding, just close friends and June's business partners who'd become genuine friends. Amoka designed her own dress with a local designer, something that honored both her Nigerian heritage and her new Korean home. But 2 weeks before the wedding, Amoka started feeling sick, exhausted, nauseous every morning. She tried to hide it, thinking it was just stress from wedding planning and the aftermath of Daniel's attack. But Ms. Park noticed. "You need to see a doctor," she said firmly after Amoka threw up for the 3rd morning in a row. "It's just stress," Amoka protested weakly. "Humor me. I've already made an appointment." The doctor's news left Amoka reeling. Pregnant. 8 weeks pregnant. She was going to have a baby. June's baby. She sat in the car outside the clinic for 20 minutes, one hand on her still flat stomach, trying to process. She was going to be a mother. After everything she'd been through, after Daniel, after being so broken she thought she'd never be whole again, she was going to bring a life into this world. Terror and joy warred inside her chest. June was in a meeting when she got home, so Amoka waited in their bedroom, their shared bedroom now, since that night after the attack, trying to figure out how to tell him. What if he wasn't ready? What if this was too much too fast? What if he felt trapped? He found her 2 hours later, curled up on the bed, the ultrasound picture clutched in her hand. "Ms. Park said you went to the doctor. Is everything okay?" His voice was tight with worry. "Are you sick? Is it something serious?" Amoka sat up, her heart pounding. "I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air. June froze completely, his face unreadable. "Pregnant," he repeated slowly. "We're having a baby. I know we didn't plan this. I know it's happening fast and we're still figuring things out and the wedding is in 2 weeks and..." He crossed the room in 3 strides and kissed her breathless. When he pulled back, his eyes were wet. "We're having a baby," he said again, this time with wonder in his voice. "You're carrying my child. You're not upset." "Upset?" He laughed, the sound almost giddy. "Amoka, I'm terrified and thrilled and so damn happy I can barely think straight. A baby. Our baby." He placed his hand reverently on her stomach. "When?" 7 months. Early June. She watched his face carefully. "Are you really okay with this? It's a huge change, and I know your business, your lifestyle." "Forget my business. Forget my lifestyle." June cupped her face. "You and this baby are my life now. Everything else is just details." He kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips. "We're going to be parents. God, we're going to be terrible at this." "Probably," Amoka agreed, laughing through tears. "But we'll be terrible together." "Together," he agreed. "Always together." The wedding 2 weeks later was perfect. Amoka wore her dress with its fusion of Nigerian and Korean elements, walked down an aisle of white roses, and said vows that made her cry and June's voice crack. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, for real this time, June kissed her like it was the first time and the last time and every time in between. At the reception, June stood to make a toast. 6 months ago, I thought I was entering a business arrangement. I thought I could keep my heart locked away, keep everything neat and controlled. But Amoka had other plans. He looked at her with such love it made her chest ache. She stormed into my life broken and brave, and she put herself back together piece by piece while I watched in awe. She taught me that strength isn't about never needing anyone. It's about choosing who to need and trusting them with your whole heart. So here's to my wife, his voice caught on the word, who saved me by letting me save her, who gave me everything by asking for nothing, who's about to make me a father and scare me to death in the best possible way. The crowd erupted in surprised gasps and congratulations. Amoka hadn't wanted to announce the pregnancy yet, but June had insisted. "I want everyone to know," he'd said. "I want the world to know how lucky I am." Later, as they danced their first dance as a truly married couple, Amoka rested her head on June's shoulder and breathed in this moment. This perfect, impossible, beautiful moment. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For pulling me out of the rain. For giving me a choice when I had none. For teaching me to fight. For loving me when I didn't think I could be loved. A mocker, he said seriously, pulling back to look at her. You saved yourself. You fought your way back to life. You chose to heal, to trust, to love again. I just had the privilege of being there to witness it. To be chosen by you. She kissed him then, soft and sweet and full of promise. Around them, Seoul glittered with lights, full of possibilities and new beginnings. The city that had once represented her prison now felt like home. Because home wasn't a place. Home was this man, this love, this family they were building from broken pieces. If you've made it this far in the story, thank you for watching. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, drop a like if Amaka and June's story touched your heart, and comment below telling me where you're watching from. I'd love to know which part of the world you're in and what you thought of this journey from broken to whole, from victim to victor, from contract to forever. Until next time, remember, you're stronger than you know, braver than you believe, and worthy of a love that heals instead of hurts. Take care.